Hey everyone, welcome to Star Wars Canon. Today we're going to be discussing the recently announced Obi-Wan Kenobi series casting. And I think, guys, the first thing we need to discuss is who will Ewan McGregor be playing?
I think he might be Ben Kenobi. No,
Ben Kenobi. Will we
I'm
see
hoping
the
for
origin
Watto.
of Watto, Watto's brother, Ben Watto? No, it was in all seriousness, I think, there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation about this series over the last year. I think if memory serves me, this was one of the productions that was affected by COVID-19 and got pushed back substantially. And it now seems that they're ready to start production officially in April, which is exciting. And alongside this, have released a cast list. Now, of course, this is in no way probably representative of all the cast members, but we have some pretty interesting actors and actresses on this list. And I think, we want to go through today and talk through some speculation about who they might play and also kind of talk about our initial reactions as we saw the cast list. We did know, guys, of course, that Hayden Christensen was going to be back in the role of Darth Vader, which is, I think, pretty exciting. One thing I'll say here is I really hope we get to see Hayden sans mask. I hope we get to see him either in the Vader meditation chamber and the Bacta tank, possibly even, in this duel that Kathleen Kennedy's been hyping up. Maybe, we see part of his face and we get to kind of see him and Ewan face off again, truly. But really exciting to see him come back. And I also wonder, is there some secret surprise casting coming? Did they maybe cast Ian McDiarmid in this series, and we see some Vader Palpatine interactions? I think it'd probably be a wasted opportunity if we didn't see more of the Emperor and Vader. So hope that plays out that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the fact that they put Hayden Christensen in the second spot here is like them not shying away from the fact that this is going to be an Obi-Wan show, but it's going to have some Vader in it. And I think it's what everybody's wanted since, the Battle of Mustafar. We want to see them go at it again. We want to see more of these two characters and their relationship. Like, I hope we get flashbacks to the Clone Wars and see stuff with them then. I mean, in a way, like, why would you cast Hayden Christensen if not to show his face? Because it's clearly not his voice as Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. And the body, I guess, is probably him, but like, it's most important once we see him without the mask. So I'm wondering if it's flashbacks or maybe even like a mind palace type of idea where we're in Darth Vader's head, which would be just wild.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the way they utilize him. I don't think we mentioned it yet, but that they confirmed that the show is meant to take place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So yeah, it really wouldn't make sense to utilize Hayden as, the voice. You could probably get away with the body like you mentioned, Dan, but I assume we have to have, the classic Vader voice come in. But it would make sense, through some sort of flashbacks or other sequences, or him getting, the mask knocked off or destroyed or damaged during a fight of some kind to be able to bring in and actually utilize Hayden. So the fact that he is number 2 sort of on this graphic that they presented us with the casting, seems like they're going to utilize him a lot, which I think is great. I feel like he got a bad rap coming off of some of the prequels, but I feel like there's a lot that he can do, and he is a talented actor when he's given the right material. And I know when we've gone to Star Wars Celebration and he's been there, that, the fans are going nuts for him. So I think it'll be fun to see him back in this role.
Yeah. The other thing you got to wonder is this in some way a test to maybe see if they could do an Anakin Skywalker driven series, set during the Clone Wars, let's say, even having some supporting role for Ewan. You could have Anakin going off on this mission on his own and communicating with Obi-Wan, but really wouldn't require Ewan to be in it that much. Just would be cool to see Hayden given more to do with that character. And, in terms of, the age, I think he still looks pretty comparable to what he looked like in Revenge of the Sith. And certainly with like the de-aging technology they have now, they could easily kind of work some digital magic on him and reduce the age there. But like you guys were saying, would love to see some flashbacks or dream sequences featuring these two together. I think that was certainly one of the strongest points of the prequels was their chemistry. So would be great to see them not only face off as foes, but also see some of that flashback to their friendship and the good times.
Definitely. I mean, I also hope that this is an opening for a Vader show on top of it and give Vader more time with him. I mean, I think all of us would put the Vader comic line in our top couple that they've done. So like, I'm just imagining just what they've done with those stories in live action would be so fun. And Scott, you mentioned Star Wars Celebration. Like, I feel like one of my favorite Star Wars Celebration moments is when they've brought Ian McDermott and Hayden Christensen to the same panel, and you get this like dark side panel. I mean, as you said, Josh, they have to bring him on. Like, I feel like they can't miss the opportunity to have the two of those guys back on camera. I mean, by far the greatest scene in the prequels, I think, is the opera scene between the two of them. And like, it'd be amazing to see more scenes like that with a tortured Vader without his helmet on or something like that. I'd love to see that.
Totally. Yeah, I love the idea of doing a Vader series. I think that has to be something they're exploring, if not actively developing. And certainly, I think Hayden would be up for doing that as well. So a lot that could be coming down the pipe after this Obi-Wan series could be setting a lot of opportunities for future projects.
Yeah, I was going to say also
that
real quick, just with Ian McDermott coming back, is that they did, bring Palpatine back already with Rise of Skywalker.
Yep.
So they're on. I feel like that sort of storyline, the Palpatine was pulling the strings behind the scenes. Other materials, since then have kind of supported that, or like, inserted new, pieces into the canon that kind of build upon that idea. So I think there's more ways that they could sort of, support that concept by stuff that goes on during the Obi-Wan series.
Absolutely. So the next actor that was announced is a relative unknown. You may have seen her in The Queen's Gambit, which a lot of folks out there saw, particularly during last year and lockdown or COVID quarantine. But Moses Ingram is another actor joining this cast. Something that I saw recently was apparently on Instagram. She noted that she gets to play with lightsabers during the series, which in my mind says, one of two things. She's either, an Inquisitor, maybe, a dark side user, which I think would be really exciting. I think, we all kind of speculated that Moff Gideon in The Mandalorian might have been an ex-Inquisitor. So truly getting to see an Inquisitor in live action at kind of the height of, the Jedi Purge and the Dark Times would be pretty cool. Or alternatively, maybe she's a Jedi on the run, and maybe this is in fact what kind of gets Obi-Wan off of Tatooine. He's on a mission to help her, or in some way aligns forces with her. Both scenarios I could see being very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm personally hoping that she's an Inquisitor. Like, I want the Inquisitor stuff to move to live action. And I know there were some rumors that maybe she was Trilla from Fallen Order. Could be kind of an interesting path. And I also saw then a lot of people speculating on Twitter about her being a young Ahsoka. I don't buy that one, really. Like, I don't think they're going to move off Rosario Dawson, but I think like the idea of her being an Inquisitor or being a fallen Jedi would be really great to transition to Hayden, because at this point I don't think Obi-Wan knows that he's alive and that he's Vader. So like there needs to be some sort of way to connect that dot down the line here, and Inquisitors would be like a natural way to pull that in.
Yeah, I'd heard that too, Dan, regarding the Ahsoka speculation, and I just frankly don't see why, if they were going to bring Ahsoka, and they wouldn't bring in Rosario Dawson and just DH her as that character.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that far off, I feel like, age-wise, and Rosario Dawson looks younger, I feel like, than she even did for this, so they could just make her kind of look like herself. And if
Definitely.
they wanted to go flashback Ahsoka, I feel like she's much younger. So you'd cast someone who's maybe a teenager or something for that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it makes any sense given the sort of Disney de-aging technology to not to use anyone except for Rosario Dawson if they really wanted to. I think even with makeup they wouldn't have to do much and could avoid even CG and still use Rosario Dawson. But yeah, I hadn't heard of this known of this actress until Queen's Gambit, and I think Queen's Gambit from like top to bottom features pretty stellar performances. So I mean, I think she delivered a great one as well. And I would be more interested, I think, of having her as an inquisitor or some sort of villain, or just knowing that one of these cast members is sort of one of those type of characters, which would then position the Obi-Wan and Vader, Ewan and Hayden sort of relationship as not necessarily Darth Vader as the big bad, but maybe just kind of just exploring that relationship more than trying to make it a antagonist role, which I think would definitely be more powerful.
Definitely.
You're right, though, Scott. As I look through the list of people, I'd be kind of happy if almost all of them were Inquisitors. So I hope at least one is.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar feeling kind of looking at this list. I mean, aside from the folks who we know uh, who they're playing, everyone else I felt, would be very interesting to see them in more heroic roles, but almost more interesting to see them all take villainous turns. Moses included, but particularly a few of these others, which we'll cover in a bit, I think will be really cool if they do, in fact, turn out to be villains. Okay, so moving on to, I think, the last two folks that we are fairly certain who they'll be playing, Joel Edgerton and Bonnie Peace, both of which are veterans to the saga. So they both played Owen and Bru Lars in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. I am super excited to see them kind of reprising these roles, particularly Joel Edgerton, given that he was a relative unknown, at least in the States, when he was cast in Attack of the Clones. But from then on, has really built up a pretty solid career, not only as an actor, but also as a filmmaker with films like The Gift. I think, he has consistently been really, really strong in every role he's taken. So to see him get a chance to revisit that role and really hopefully explore this tension between Owen and Obi-Wan, and kind of maybe seeing Obi-Wan trying to visit and train Luke, and Owen basically saying no, it's not happening. I think that's a lot of rich ground for some really juicy drama that they could explore.
Yeah, I think building up that reason that Uncle Owen doesn't like Kenobi is going to be fun. But, we saw Joel Edgerton, I think, at South by Southwest at one point, and the guy is just such a passionate person and so into what he does. And I think, the world kind of get introduced to him just slightly in Star Wars, but I'm really hoping he has a much bigger role for this because he's awesome. And that picture there, he looks like he's been more in the Twin Sons, I feel like, than Bonnie Peace, who looks like she might even be younger than she was in episode 3. It's pretty amazing the difference between them.
Yeah, some of these photos used in the casting announcement are pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Joel Edgerton to return. I think, at the time of being cast as Uncle Owen, no one really knew who he was, but then had some really big breakout roles, and has proven to be one of my favorite actors over the last 10 or 15 years. So I'm excited to see him come in, and hopefully it's more than just more of a cameo, and they explore the relationship between him and Obi-Wan. That's seems a little broken and splintered by the time we're introduced to Luke.
Yeah, and for Bonnie, I mean, I don't believe I've seen her in any other roles beyond the two Star Wars prequels, but I would hope that we see more of Aunt Beru and get more background on her character, and what is that relationship like between her and Owen. And I think we get that that little tease in A New Hope of there's tension between the two, and Owen kind of has his opinion of how Luke should live his life, and I think Brew is probably a little bit more inclined to kind of let Luke go and follow his destiny. So I think it'd be interesting, particularly if you add Obi-Wan to that mix and kind of play with that tension. And I would think this means we're also seeing a young Luke Skywalker. I mean, I gotta think there's no way they don't feature that in this series.
Yeah.
And I mean, at 10 or so is what he should be. I mean, he'll actually, I think, should be a real character in this show. Like he's not that little. So it should be kind of interesting.
Are they going to de-age Mark Hamill for that one?
Sebastian Stan. Stan, baby.
I hope also with this they're going to reference the meme that's been going around about Uncle Owen never painting the ceiling in there. Have you guys seen that? He's like, I'll do it over the weekend or tomorrow or something. Never does it.
All right, so moving back to some folks who will be new members of the Star Wars universe. So this next person is someone I think is fairly popular and everyone should know from series like Silicon Valley, movies like The Big Sick, and will also, I think, be making his first MCU appearance later this year in The Eternals. But Kumail Nanjiani will be featured in the series. We all know that, Kumail is great at comedy, so I could see him, clearly being in a more comedic role in this. But as we were saying, it would be kind of interesting if they kind of completely did a left turn and made him a villain role, like an Imperial. So I'm holding out hope that we see him as a villain. Another thing that I think is very, very probable, because Star Wars under Disney seems to really like to make comedians into droids. So I could very much see him being a droid in this series. That would kind of fall in line with what they've done with droids on all the other films so far.
Yeah, it would be fun if he was a droid, actually. But there's nothing scarier than when a comedian goes dark. So like it'd be pretty fun if they did find him a dark path.
Yeah.
Some of those like officers in the Empire can be scarier than like Vader even, I feel like. So it'd be interesting to give him that kind of really dark Tarkin type role or something.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the original voice of Darth Maul is a comedian typically, so if they've already done it before. Yeah, I love Kumail. I think he's one of the funnier actors out there right now, and I think this is actually in a weird way a good fit in that he'll be coming off of the Eternals, and so he's already steeped in something that's a little more fantastic in a way, and I'm sure the Eternals, like all Marvel movies, is going to be, have a lot of levity, but also a lot of serious moments. But I think Kumail also, his strongest performance was in The Big Sick, which is definitely a dramedy and is lighthearted and has a lot of really funny moments, but also deals with a lot of serious stuff. And the way he's able to sort of juggle that, I think sort of proves that he can sort of fit into any box, even though he's typically known for comedy.
The other thing about him is he got in crazy shape for the Eternals. So, and I'll be interested to see how they use him in the Eternals, if they play more into his comedic side or if they try to make him more kind of action forward. And I think that could potentially also impact how they use him in this series. Like maybe he's still comedic, but also trying to position him as a kind of action star in his own right.
Yeah, I kind of wonder with just like the type of characters he plays and knowing his sort of notoriety and popularity, if he could be seen as like a recurring, bartender or mechanic type character that kind of assists along the way and provides some levity, but doesn't have to have the weight of the show placed on them as sort of a recognizable actor. The more I think about it, the more I think a droid is very, very probable. I mean, you look at like, Alan Tudyk as K2SO and Phoebe Waller-Bridge is L4. I mean, it's just like they got this thing going with even if you guys can help me with the name here, the British comedian who did the voice of the droid in The Mandalorian, who was only in that one. He was actually in 2 episodes. He was in the
the Prison Break episode, and then came back
Zero.
as Zero.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, but what's the actor's name?
Yeah, he was in what's the show he was in? I'm totally blanking, but they definitely have a thing for putting comedians in roles of droids. Like that.
Yeah,
seems
it
like
would make a lot of sense here for him.
and he could actually be really fun as a droid. Like I think that could be a pretty cool role for him.
Yeah.
The even more recent stuff like BB-8 and DO were like voiced by comedians. Like BB-8 was like the sound was designed by Ben Schwartz.
That's right, Ben
like
Schwartz,
Parks and Recreation and Sonic the Hedgehog. So they've definitely, even just the beeps and like tones and intonation of that, they've gone to comedians to sort of find that perfect delivery.
That's right. Okay, so next on the list is someone that most of you probably will know from Game of Thrones. I remember her and still fondly recall her from the series Rome that was on HBO. I think she was great in this. But Indira Varma will be joining the cast. I gotta say, guys, I really hope she's playing a villain. I think she has like the perfect villain look, and if she was an Inquisitor, I think she would just knock our socks off, because she'd be incredible in it.
It's like her casting got rumored a couple weeks ago, and when that first came out, I was so excited. Like, this is probably the person outside of course, the people we already knew that I was most pumped about. I mean, she just fits Star Wars. Like, there's something about her that you just know is going to fit. Obviously, we've like talked through a bunch of villains and Inquisitors and things like that she could be good for. Another rumor thing when that came out was like, what if she's Asajj Ventress from flashbacks or things like that? And like, she does really have an Asajj look to her that I feel like they could pull off, which would be awesome. Like, I mean, any one of those directions would be really cool. She's going to be great for this.
Yeah, I think she's been around and definitely most notable for Game of Thrones. And I'm the same with you, Josh, that I first saw her and remember her most prior to Game of Thrones from Rome. But I think she's a great character actor all around in sort of any role she's in. But I think she definitely excels in these like sort of genre type things like Game of Thrones or like a historical setting like Rome. So I think, just sort of her acting style and sort of the aesthetic of her really fits into Star Wars. And agreed that just given that aesthetic, I think she would really fit well as a villain type character.
Yeah, or like Din Djarin rolls in and just happens to have her as a former lover.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, like pairing her up with Moses, like if they were both Inquisitors, right? Like that would just be pretty incredible. So really hoping
sort of like a master and apprentice element to them or something too. Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah. Another recognizable face next on the list here, Rupert Friend. So he's been in a lot of stuff over the years. You may remember him from Pride and Prejudice. My favorite role that he's played was in Homeland. He played a CIA operative. I think I see a lot of people speculating he could be a villain role, and he does kind of have that stereotypical Imperial look, and plus he has a British accent, which would be pretty appropriate. Personally, though, after seeing him in Homeland, I hope he is somehow a rebel operative, kind of, spy. Maybe even this is a way for them to kind of introduce his character and then bring him back in the Cassian Andor show. But super excited to see him in this series. I think he's a terrific actor and always fun to watch.
Yeah, I think he. I think he's the strongest part of Homeland. I know you mentioned that he plays a CIA operative in that, and I think he is
not Mandy Patinkin.
Yeah, Mandy Patinkin has his moments, but I think Rupert Friend as Peter Quinn is the most consistently strong part of Homeland, and I think just the most interesting sort of dynamic that he has in terms of his character arc. And it's he's someone that I think, because of just how complex that show was and how long that show ended up running for, that he probably didn't appear in as much other stuff as he should be in. So I'm really excited that he's going to be in something that, puts him at the forefront, at least in front of a lot of people that probably haven't seen him before, unless they were big fans of Agent 47.
Yeah, I think we are so caught up in the evil idea here with everyone, but it would be cool and necessary, I think, for there to be a lot of rebellion operatives. Hopefully some people from like Saul Guerrero's groups that are broken out, so they could be a little bit more borderline terrorist rebellion than just rebellion. And then maybe the brighter side of that, the Mon Mothma crew. So like somewhere in these group of people probably are someone that's going to fall into those categories.
Bring up an interesting point, Dan. I think her name is Gwendolyn Christie, who played Mon Mothma. It would make sense that she could be in the show too. I know she's been announced for the Cassian Andor show, but it would make sense that she's kind of floating around during this time period. And then another person I feel like we have to see that they're probably holding for a surprise is Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa. I mean,
Yeah.
That we have that relationship being built in Revenge of the Sith, and I feel like you kind of, continue to see that to really pay it off in A New Hope.
Yeah, I think they're holding a lot of the cards still. Like, I mean, the other one that we all want, Liam Neeson. Like, Liam Neeson needs to, at the very least, his voice make an appearance on this show. And Yoda, I feel like we've got a pretty good shot at having some sort of reason for Obi-Wan and Yoda to communicate through the Force. So they've got to throw us a few more characters that I think know pretty well. We're all pulling for Ahmed Best, of course, too.
Yeah, Ahmed today on Twitter announced or said that it's not involved in the project. I personally don't take any of these denials at face value. I mean, it's become pretty commonplace for actors to flat out lie about their roles these days. So I think there's a good shot we could see Ahmed, but certainly like bringing Liam back, Jimmy Schmitz as Bail Organa, like those just seem like no brainers. And I know Liam has already said in interviews that he's more than willing to return.
Yeah, and it's Genevieve O'Reilly is Mon Mothma.
Like Gwendolyn Christie is
Phasma.
Phasma, yeah.
So close.
Yeah. I thought I was.
I think
British wrong,
tall British actress starting with a G.
Yes. Okay, so covered Rupert. Next on the list here, another actor that I think a lot of people probably are familiar with. May have seen him in Straight Outta Compton or another film that he was in, Den of Thieves with Gerald Butler, but O'Shea Jackson, oldest son of Ice Cube. I'm really excited to see him. I think he's another kind of terrific up-and-coming actor. And in terms of what role I think he could be playing, again, I think he'd be really, really interesting to see as like one of the rebellion fighters. Could be part of Saul's crew, or could also be a villain. I think he has a lot of range, so he could pull off any of those.
Yeah, one of my favorite article headers since this announcement was Ice Cube's son now in Star Wars. It's like not something you ever expect to see, but I mean, he's a great actor, and I think could play a lot of different roles here. I do wonder just the way they like position people in the headshots they chose. Like he's smiling more than the rest of them, makes you think he's the good guy, but they could be, misleading us with some headshots.
Yeah, I think there's definitely the like element that he's Ice Cube's son and has some notoriety around that. And he played his father, in his first sort of major role with Straight Outta Compton, and was incredible in that. Like, basically was a young version of his father on screen. But I think the one thing I've realized from seeing him in other stuff, especially in the Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron comedy Long Shot, is he's actually really funny too. He has great comedic timing. So I think, some of the stuff like Straight Outta Compton and Den of Thieves, he had sort of lead roles in a more serious element. But he also is really, really funny. So I wouldn't necessarily only count him out for some of those serious roles too. I could see him in a supporting comedy role. But yeah, I do feel like he would totally fit in, as a part of maybe the rebellion side starting to take fold. Yeah, if someone like Saw or something comes in here, he could be in there.
And then following O'Shea, someone else I'm sure everyone knows from the Fast and Furious franchise, Sun Kang, who played Han in that series. I'm sorry, guys, but the only I could see Sun playing is a pilot. I think he has to play a pilot in this, and has to be a badass Han Solo-esque scoundrel who can fly a ship like no other. I think
He's going to teach Uncle Owen how to drift the speeder that then gets passed down to Luke.
Yeah, drift the T-16 through Baker's Canyon.
I think one of the funniest things is that his character's name in the Fast and Furious franchise is Han Solo. Yes. So he's already got that going for him. So they could just make his character is cross between the Fast and Furious franchise, but started in Better Luck Tomorrow, one of the Tokyo Drift director's first films. So he's already crossed out of that, into other films. So we'll just now bring him into Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to make him a pirate, a scoundrel, a pilot, something in that kind of vein. I mean, I think a decent amount of the show should start on Tatooine also, though. So maybe he's a pod racer, which would be kind of fun to revisit pod racing in some way too. So I mean, we want to see him drive something, though. I mean, that needs to happen.
Yeah, I think outside of the driving, he really does have this sort of swagger to him in a lot of his roles that I think it could be carried over from Better Luck Tomorrow and Fast and Furious franchise, but also his sort of brief role in the opening of Ninja Assassin. He's sort of just this over the top, character. I think his character's name is like Hollywood or Big Time or something like that. They just really has this over the top swagger element to him that I think would translate into, some grungy underworld type character or racer within this universe.
Yeah, totally right, Scott. He has that cool factor that they got to capitalize on that and make him Han Solo-esque character. Because I don't think out of all the films, if you could cast an actor as close to Harrison Ford in terms of that, like unfazed coolness, it's definitely Sun Kang.
100%.
It's the hair.
So next casting announcement here is Simone Kessel. Not really a lot we know about her. She is an actress from New Zealand. She's done some smaller roles, but really hasn't seemed to be in anything that major. So hard to say really what she'll play, but could certainly be on either side of the conflict. And maybe we'll see 3 female Inquisitors. Maybe she'll join Nira and Moses, and we'll have 3 badass Inquisitor women.
Yeah, I don't know anything about her really background-wise other than just a quick IMDb. But I mean, the fact they picked a person with the last name Kessel was probably a good Star Wars choice. So I'm hopeful. And New Zealander, always a good choice.
Yes.
Yeah, I have not seen anything she's been in and wasn't aware of her, but I did get it made me think, especially having watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier that's airing right now, that character like Enfys Nest, just brought in someone that was, an unknown actress and gave them a really cool character that had a fun persona and sort of, was not the main part of the story, but, was something that was interesting and memorable, that she could easily be put into a position like this that, kickstarts her career and is able to create a fun character for the show.
Yeah. Something we really haven't talked about, but certainly could be a possibility in this show, is a potential love interest for Obi-Wan, and especially now that the Jedi Order is kind of no more, and he might not feel so bound to the rules. We already know he's in the past been willing to break those for love. So certainly don't want to pigeonholing any of these women as the love interest, but that is something that they could explore in the show and could be pretty interesting in terms of showing different angles of Obi-Wan and his character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could be really cool. I mean, I could see Indira Varma also fitting that, and then maybe being the wrong choice for him. She's playing him or something like that. Can be kind of interesting.
Totally.
Maybe it's Bonnie Peace, and that's why Uncle Owen doesn't like Obi-Wan.
That's the root of the issue right there.
Yeah. That old wizard.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the last cast announcement. I think tied with Rupert Friend for my most excited casting in the series. Benny Safdie. Some of you might know Benny as a filmmaker, not a actor as much, but him and his brother Josh directed two of the most, I think, popular indie films in the last few years: Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler and Good Time with Robert Pattinson. And Benny actually, in addition to directing Good Time, starred in Good Time with Robert and was fantastic in that role. And he's been doing more acting as of late. He was just in a movie with Shia LaBeouf and Jennifer Kirby that dropped on Netflix. I think it's called Portraits of a Woman.
Pieces of a Woman.
Pieces of a Woman. So he's doing more and more acting. In terms of what Benny could be playing, I have no clue. I see a lot of people speculate that he could be, some CD member of the underworld, like a Elian Sleazebago type of character from Attack of the Clones. But really excited to see him involved. Definitely giving this project a lot of indie cred. So love to see what he actually is cast as.
Yeah, this for me is. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Scott.
I was gonna say this for me is just the most like out of left field casting of any of them. I think he's in Good Time. If you haven't seen Good Time, it's incredible, and he's incredible in it. But then his other roles feel like they're in line with Good Time and Uncut Gems, like Pieces of a Woman is, really sort of just, upsetting and intimate sort of, family film or a film about a family sort of as they're falling apart, and he is, just a piece of that. And so when I think of sort of the films he's been in or the films he's created or the types of films he's ever involved in, they're really like the furthest thing from, a big blockbuster or Star Wars or anything like that. So to see him in here was really surprising and just, makes me wonder if there was either just, some very unique role and someone that he knew that was just like, what if we brought in, Benny to play this character? It feels like it's a very specific choice because it's so sort of off the wall.
Yeah, I think for me on the list, he was the one I had the least speculation as to who he could be. Like he could be anyone. I feel like a chameleon kind of character. I feel like it is similar to the Paul Bettany casting in Solo at first, mm-hmm. Paul Bettany could kind of go any direction and it's like a little unclear. Like I think he's got like a similar spot here where it's going to be interesting, but what is it? I don't know.
Yeah, I think your point, Scott, in terms of like the types of projects he's involved in is really interesting. He typically does either make or, choose to be involved in projects that are more like dark character driven dramas, mm-hmm. Which makes me wonder, what is the tone of this series going to be? I have to think, while it certainly is going to have like the trademark Star Wars humor sprinkled throughout, it might actually be one of the darker, more serious and somber Star Wars productions. I mean, it makes sense given, what Obi-Wan's going through, and then also having, Vader's perspective. This really could be quite a kind of tragic story overall.
Yeah. I feel like too, for him, it's probably going to be just an interesting experience in terms of the production, because especially in like the movies he's made or acted in, they tend to be ones where there's clearly, a story and story beats they're hitting, but it like a lot of the lines and dialogue and the flow and pacing is sort of led and controlled by the actors and almost improvised. Whereas being on a Star Wars set is going to be very controlled and precise because, every minute is $1 million. So they have to like make sure they're using their time and hitting the script and sticking to it. So it'll be really interesting to see sort of him in that environment.
Totally. And I think overall, like, kind of my final thoughts on this casting is I think it just shows that they're really prioritizing getting good actors, not necessarily just well-known actors, but looking at people who have kind of tradition or, time after time chosen really interesting roles over kind of maybe more flashy roles. So I'm excited where they're going. I think this is unexpected, I would say, but in a really, really good way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this is an exciting cast list. I think like a little note to add to it. Today I went to Starbucks wearing my Star Wars Canon hat, and the barista asked me, like, have you seen the announcements about the Obi-Wan Kenobi casting? I mean, I think this is going to be a big deal for people. Like, I think a lot of people are really excited about it. It's like coming up more in conversation than I feel like even obviously like Bad Batch or even the Book of Boba, which are both coming before that. It's the thing I think everyone has wanted for 15 years or something now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I the only thing that makes me or I'm interested about, I guess, really interested about is just seeing this, stack of a dozen names or so, is that we're only getting 6 episodes of the show and that's it. And I'd love to, like, knowing all of these characters or actors rather, and the talent that they could bring to a character. I feel like, oh no, we're only going to get a moment sort of within each of them, or not enough time with each of them. So hopefully this does, spawn some new characters that either cross over into other shows or comics or books, things like that. But it is a bummer knowing that we're only going to get 6 episodes of Obi-Wan.
Putting maybe a positive spin on the 6 episode side of it. I mean, that's basically the length of the entire prequels,
right?
So like we're almost getting an entire another trilogy with just Obi-Wan. So that's the, like, I wish there were more episodes, but like a positive spin on that.
Yeah, I guess it will really depend on the episode length, because Mando, we are getting 20-minute episodes a lot of times, and Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think, is also 6 episodes, but they've been 45 to 50 minutes, even, subtracting the credits. So hopefully they go that route for Obi-Wan and give us as much as we can get.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, again, this merits, a longer episode length, like 45 minutes to an hour. I'd be shocked if we got 6 30-minute episodes. I would feel like not enough time to really do this story justice.
Yeah, I feel like at some point they had actually said 6 1-hour episodes. Like I have to look back again, but I thought that in the initial announcement they made a point about the length because people were questioning the Mandalorian length.
Yeah, that could very well be true. They also told us the last 3 episodes of WandaVision were going to be 3 hours, and it was like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that.
Scott's still salty about that.
You can't believe anything Feige says
Yeah.
publicly. Like he doesn't say the truth.
And that's why Jar Jar Binks will be in this series.
Yeah.
You can't believe anything anyone says anymore.
I will say that, I mean, Mando makes great use of its time. Some of the best episodes are some of the shortest episodes. So I do sort of trust in that. And so far, with the longer episodes, I don't feel like Falcon and Winter Soldier is wasting time or not having enough time. So they definitely know what they're working with. And I think being on streaming gives them the flexibility of making a varied episode length too. I think I'm just greedy and want as much as I can.
Yeah. I guess my thought on that, Scott, is like, if they were going to do 6 30-minute episodes, like, why not just do a movie, right? Like, Mando's more episodic in a lot of ways. I mean, there's definitely a through line of story. This feels like it's going to be one story told across, these 6 episodes. I don't really see it as like, here's a new adventure for Obi-Wan every week. I mean, maybe they'll surprise us and that's where they go. But it kind of feels like there has to be something that's driving this guy to get off Tatooine, and that's like a one singular mission that we kind of follow him with.
Sure. Yeah. I think it could be the same thing, and it's more just that it's less that I mean, if it did go with the shorter length, I could see them justifying it by having like, hey, this episode is a flashback episode, so in a movie we wouldn't take a 30-minute chunk, to show a flashback, but in 6 episodes we could take a sixth of the series to, fill in a bunch of backstory or, connect some different characters. I guess that's an interesting point of if there is some flashback stuff, some of these characters could just be involved in that.
Yep.
Some of the characters like Simone Kessel or Moses Ingram could play like a younger version of Indira Varma, just given like some of the age differences and stuff like that. I feel like they're all going to be unique characters, but I feel like not knowing where the show's going to go, they do have that flexibility to play with.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But really, as long as Watto makes the cut somewhere, I'll be satisfied.
Watto's coming back.
So
what we got to do is we got to start a campaign like the Snyder cut, but for Watto to be included in the Obi-Wan series.
Yeah. I think it's Sun Kang and Watto teamed up as like a pod racer team. But that's really what I'm pushing for.
And also Jabba. I mean, we didn't really talk about this. I mean, now we're getting into more speculation outside the casting, but I know in the main Marvel Star Wars comic line, it's probably been a few years now, but they had a storyline where Luke discovered Obi-Wan's journals and had a flashback and like Obi-Wan fighting off Jabba's goons basically on Tatooine. So that's another kind of obvious villain that they could bring into the mix here, and I'm always down for them bringing more Hutts into play in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, and now that you're saying that, like we didn't even talk about crime lords in general. Like, I could see Sun Kang being Crimson Dawn, like as well, like someone from that, like that would fit his style pretty well.
Yeah, we didn't bring up Darth Maul at all, but that seems like another potential opportunity that they could, try to play with that. I mean, Maul's out there during this time, right? So could they cross paths, or could there just be, some tie-ins to Crimson Dawn? I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I could see a tie into Crimson Dawn or one of these characters being related or a piece of that. I feel like if it was a direct Maul thing, it would be more of an Easter egg or some sort of tease within it, so that you don't pull away from the Obi-Wan Vader sort of relationship or chance to explore that.
It also might take away from the the Rebels conclusion of kind of their rivalry, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think in the Twin Sons episode, well, like the lead up to that, they imply that Maul didn't know he was still around. So it's probably loose enough that it could still play in canon either way. But but it's
how cool would it be to see? It'd be so cool.
I mean, I think like they shouldn't feel confined too much to some of the things people obsess over, like the fact that in A New Hope they sort of imply they've never met again. Like, we don't care. Like, let Obi-Wan and Vader meet again. It's fine.
Yeah. Ray Park needs a check. Someone give Ray Park a job. All right, guys. Well, this was awesome discussion. Super excited to see what they do with the series. I believe, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, this will be premiering on Disney Plus next year. And I would assume we're probably going to be seeing a trailer towards the end of this year. So look out for that, and we'll certainly be discussing that once that drops. In the meantime, please subscribe to Star Wars Canon. We'll be dropping regular videos talking about all things Star Wars, but in particular, all this great content that's being released, Bad Batch, High Republic content later this year.